Very good evening, friends. I would like to welcome you for today's session, and that is AI, natural language processing, and its importance in language and translation. I welcome all our interns who are watching us on YouTube channel, as well as our guest speakers, as well as presenters uh, who are with us today. Our guest speaker is Engineer Deep Saxena, uh, and we also have our presenters from interns part, that is Alpana, Ashok, Garima. We have with us Payal as our coordinator and Nikita as lead intern today. Uh, for today's format of discussion, I will be giving a little brief on the AI thing and its importance in languages. And then we will have some points given by Garima and then followed by Alpna on programming languages. Garima will again talk about types of artificial intelligence. Ashok will give a brief on usage of AI, and Alpna will talk how AI helps in translation, and Ashok will do conclusion. After we have done this presentation by the interns, our guest speaker, Mr. Deep Saxena, will talk in more detail about natural language processing, AI, what is its importance, basics of AI programming, how natural language processing helps, a little more deeper part of it. So before I pass on my talk for today, or our talk for today, to our interns who will be presenting, let me give you a little brief on AI, which I have talked yesterday about. What is AI? I am talking not from technical point of view, but I am talking from perspective from user's point of view and the observations that I have made. AI is nowadays a very kind of buzzing word, and all computer science students learn at one form or the other form AI thing. Many times it is linked with data analytic and all, but it is totally a different thing, which Mr. Deep Saxena will tell you. But artificial intelligence, it has something, its name has its own thing. Our human mind, has lots of capacity, which amounts to, perhaps, the fastest computer, which is being developed in China as well as in USA or other parts of the world, supercomputers that we say. Our human mind is much smarter than all of them, for the fact that it is very small. These supercomputers are huge, large, they take lots of space and database. And just imagine, our human mind is so small and tiny, and it gives you too much of information, too much of, power, especially knowledge. And thus the processing of the information takes quickly as possible, which the normal computers or even supercomputers at times cannot do that. So, when our human mind is not functioning in certain pattern, let's say calculation, then there is, collection of information done by variety of platforms, especially whatever we say, whatever we talk. And if you recall Facebook or social media platforms, they work on certain structure, pattern of, activities. And based on their pattern of activity, we do feeding, every second, every fraction of second globally. So that feeding thing is, analyzed by codes and experts, which work on a regular basis for improvement. And that analysis gives you lots of power to foretell things. So there it is, the mind, it is not working, rather it is the artificial mind is working, and that is what we call artificial intelligence. We develop that and we use our brain to give more better results for consumption or betterment of human activities or betterment of, many times medicines, many times satellite activities, and etc. etc. Take anything that you think now, from website, where we get lots of information and we do lots of activities there, and there also AI applies. Similarly, AI applies at speaking platforms, including typing platforms, including websites. Now Google has given lots of options, from speech to text and from text to speech, from one language to another language. There are multilingual platforms. There are, now videos are being developed through AI, based on the input that we receive. So the importance of AI becomes very, very relevant currently, because for the fact that it empowers our brain to do lots of activities at one point, and on the other hand, it makes our brain lethargy as well, because we depend too much on machine, and our creativity decreases. If you go through research, you will find it is dehumanizing effect that AI is doing. Now, there will be time when human will be replaced from variety of manual works, and AI, empowered machines will work, including machines, factories as well as cleaning machines, etc. We already see. So at that phase of time, what will human do then? So you have to think on those aspects also, and the only thing that will be left will be, like compassion, creativity, art, literature, poetry, these kind of, creative things we will be left with, and perhaps there will be more adaptation to all these activities that will come into picture in coming days. But currently we can understand that we are in a very dynamic stage of development, and we cannot ignore AI, especially being a linguist. This AI is now helping us to translate, do intuitive activities. AI also has linkages with a concept called natural language processing, which our friend Deep Saxena will give you more detailed insight on that. So with this, I would like to welcome our first speaker, Garima, who will give a little brief on AI, and then after Garima, we will have Alpana, who will be talking about programming. So please, Garima, who is our summer intern, please welcome.
Good evening, everyone. What all of us have to do is to make sure we are using AI in a way that is for the benefit of humanity, not to the detriment of humanity. A saying by Tim Cook. Hello, everyone. This is Garima Kukreja, intern at Modlingua for this summer. I'm currently a postgraduate student of French translation and interpretation at Jawaharlal Nehru University. Today, I will be facilitating you all to understand what is artificial intelligence and its use in language and translation, along with my fellow presenters, and get myself educated about this concept from an experienced person who is present with us today, Deep Saxena, our guest speaker. Firstly, I will be explaining what is artificial intelligence and some keywords we need to know before we proceed further. Artificial intelligence. It is an assemblage of many different technologies working together to enable machines to sense, comprehend, act and learn with human-like levels of intelligence. Technologies like machine learning and natural language processing are all part of the AI landscape. Each software is designed to study, analyze, and sense the data to store it for giving better outcomes, be it improving customer service or optimizing the supply chain. Now, let us talk about the important terms that we need to understand before we proceed further. First is machine learning. a branch of artificial intelligence, which is based on the idea that systems can learn from data, identify patterns, and make decisions with minimal human intervention. While AI is the broad science of mimicking human abilities, machine learning is a specific subset of artificial intelligence that trains a machine how to learn. Next important element is deep learning. It is a type of machine learning that trains a computer to recognize speech, identify images, and make predictions. It sets up basic parameters about the data and trains the computer to learn on its own by recognizing patterns that are basically processed using layers of processing. Third, and the most important element of artificial intelligence is natural language processing, NLP, as we say that. It is another branch of artificial intelligence that helps computer understand, interpret, and manipulate human language. It helps computers communicate with humans in their own language, making it possible for computers to read text, hear speech, interpret it, and at last measure sentiment to determine which parts are important. Now, I will talk about some of the benefits that NLP provide us for making our business more competitive in the global market. It performs large-scale analysis. For example, it analyzes huge amounts of unstructured text data like social media comments, customer support tickets, online reviews, and news reports. It automates processes in real time. Basically, it sorts and routes the information with little to no human interaction very quickly and efficiently. It also tailors its needs and criteria according to our needs and provide us complex and industry-specific language and helps us in analyzing even sarcasm and misused words. AI makes it possible for machines to learn from experience, adjust to new inputs, and perform human-like tasks. Most AI examples that you hear about today, from chess playing computers to self-driving cars, rely heavily on deep learning and natural language processing. Recently, our Pune students have made driverless four-wheeler using artificial intelligence. Now, I would like to pass the talk to Alpana so that she could brief you about the programming languages used in artificial intelligence. Over to you, Alpana.
Alpana, you're speaking on mute.
Please unmute yourself.
No, you're not audible. Yes.
Now it's okay.
Now it's okay?
Yes.
Sorry. Okay. I'm going to discuss briefly the programming languages used in AI and how these languages, AI helps in translation briefly. All of us, we are familiar with first, second, third industrial revolution. Nowadays, we hear very frequently Industry 4, which means the industries are facing the fourth industrial revolution. Industry 4 simply means computerization of manufacturing. It includes many things such as robotics, Internet of Things, machine learning, and artificial intelligence is one of them. AI or artificial intelligence simply means use of computers or software or machines which can perform tasks just like human beings or more efficiently than human beings. Garima presently mentioned about the narrow AI, which is used for performing low-level tasks. But scientists are really aiming at creating strong AI, which will outperform a human being in any cognitive task. My colleague Ashok will talk about applications of AI in different industries. Right now, I wish to focus on the languages which are used in AI. We have to remember that AI is a broad term of computer science, branch of computer science, and hence knowledge about the programming languages is highly essential if we wish to understand AI in real sense. Different languages are used like Python, C++, and R and Julia. The choice of the language depends on the kind of business, the goals, the target audience, market structure, and most importantly, why and where one wishes to implement AI. Python is the ideal coding language used for machine learning, natural language processing, and neural network connections. It's highly popular because of its simple syntax, less coding, and availability of large number of ready-to-use libraries. Simple syntax, what is meant by this is one can focus on the core values of programming, thinking, and problem solving. Python uses English words, and it is considered as the best programming language because of its simplicity. The next language is Lisp or list processing, which is the oldest AI programming language, second after the Fortran language. It was coined by the father of artificial intelligence, Mr. John McCarthy. The language has fresh ideas, so these can be used to express the ideas programmers wishes to express. It's a flexible language and adapts to the solutions readily. It can be used for inductive logic programs and machine learning, rapid prototyping, and dynamic creation of new objects. But nowadays, people are not using Lisp as the main language because of certain drawbacks, such as lack of well-known libraries and a weird syntax. Also, the codes are harder to learn and it doesn't have good libraries. Our language is the third language, which is influenced by the Lisp language. If one wishes to go for statistical processes in programming, then this language is highly useful. It's highly efficient language and is preferred by top AI companies because of its ability to solve complex issues. The next language is Prolog. Prolog is programming in logic. It is one of the oldest language and it's based on the basic mechanisms of artificial intelligence or machine learning, like pattern matching and automatic backtracking. It includes three different components: the facts, rules, and goals, which a programmer is supposed to feed, supposed to specify them, and Prolog will automatically find out the connection or relation between the three and will reach to a conclusion. So it is really easy to build a database with Prolog. Prolog is best for creating chatbots, voice assistants, and graphical user interfaces. C++ is an extension of the C programming language and can be used to build the neural networks. The speed of C++ is the greatest benefit since artificial intelligence development has complex computations and this language can make faster calculations. In fact, it is the fastest programming language, also cost efficient. Search engines use C++.
Excuse me, Alpana, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
But our webinar is not for reading our paper. We are
Yes,
here
sir.
to discuss. We are here to maintain eye contact with each other. So kindly take into consideration that point because I mean, it's not the idea, of this webinar.
Okay, I'll take care, sir. Yes, it's a cost efficient language. Search engines are and computer games are based on the C++ language, but it is not preferred by the leading companies because of its complex syntax and it has limited range of libraries. The next language is JavaScript. which is more versatile than the Java language. It has advantages like continuous developments are taking place, multiple domain growth, backend use. It's easy to use and it's highly efficient language. It's used as a framework for deep learning and mapping. Java is the next language, which is most widely used and the popular language. And it's easy to learn, it's versatile. It has many open source libraries. It uses virtual machine technology, and therefore it can be implemented on different platforms. It can be combined with other artificial coding languages. Java has other advantages such as fast debugging, portable and automatic memory manager. The disadvantage of Java is its slower speed. Processing speed is less, and therefore it requires more response time. But it can be used to build the robo systems, the sensors, and the machine learning suites. Another one is the Haskell, which is one of the safest learning programs. Because it has no scope to make the errors. In fact, it can resolve the errors too during the compilation process and even before that. But still, it is not being used by many. And the last language is the Julia, which is used exclusively for numerical analysis. Again, this is not used by the many programmers. In the conclusion, I would like to say that artificial intelligence is bringing changes to the whole world, and world will not remain same in the next few years. So if we don't want to left behind, or if any industry doesn't want to left behind, then we have to understand artificial intelligence. And for that, we have to understand the programming languages. With this, I hand over the session to Mr. Ashok.
Now I will talk about the types of artificial intelligence. They can be termed as narrow.
Garima, 1 minute.
Okay, sir.
I must intervene for the fact that Alpana has done a very well, structured presentation, well-researched presentation. But we are not here. Please understand, we are not here to do a reading of our research papers. Please understand, we are here to talk and talk to each other, not to computer, not to laptop. Have you seen me doing using any paper? Yesterday I had given you a talk for 40 minutes. Not a single, PowerPoint or text was used. It's not the idea, because this kind of thing that we are doing is, the basics of teaching capability that an intern can develop, even when you don't have anything. We are not talking here to show your PPT skill. We are doing webinar here to understand your leadership skill. And leadership skill does not come by reading papers. It's very important to understand. Content is good, presentation is good, but that is not the purpose. So please, whosoever has planned this way, I suggest you to please change your mode of presentation from immediate effect. I will prefer that you talk only 5 lines. I'm happy with that. But I don't want you to devote 10 minutes and do reading. No, please. Okay? Okay, Garima. So now let's move ahead. Garima, please.
Yes, sir. I will talk about the types of artificial intelligence. So there are 3 types of artificial intelligence. The first is narrow AI, second is general AI, and third is artificial superintelligence. I will talk about first narrow AI, which we can also call as weak AI. The day-to-day functions that we experience in our lives are narrow AI. which performs a single task or a set of closely related tasks. For example, we have weather apps, digital assistants, and softwares that analyzes data to optimize a given business function. So these all comes in the narrow AI type. Narrow AI has immense transformational power, and it continues to influence how we work and live on a global scale. Secondly, we have general AI, which we also call as strong AI. General AI is more likely you see in science films, where sentient machines emulate human intelligence, and it also thinks strategically, creatively, with the ability to handle a range of complex tasks. As we know that humans can't process the data, computers are good at doing that. That's why we can say artificial intelligence remains an extension of human capabilities, not a replacement. Thirdly, we have artificial superintelligence. Here we can say that artificial intelligence has kind of surpassed the human abilities. Like it is the hypothetical AI that doesn't only mimic or understand human intelligence, but it also makes the machines self-aware and surpass the capacity of human abilities and capabilities to think creatively. So these are all the types of artificial intelligence which we see in our day-to-day lives. Now I will pass on the talk to Ashok, and he will explain you the uses of artificial intelligence. Over to you, Ashok.
A very warm thank you to Garima for explaining the stuff. Now I have the opportunity to explain the uses of artificial intelligence in our day-to-day lives. Now, I think it's personally a misnomer to think of artificial intelligence as only relating to very complex programming and robotics, like in science fiction films. Because in reality, what happens is it is surrounding all around us, and we are using it almost in our day-to-day mundane activities and lives. Now, I would like to give a few examples. It can range from anywhere from a text editor to the Google Maps. So let's start. First is from the language industry and from language field, I would like to talk about text editors and autocorrect. Now, we have used the autocorrect feature in our mobile phones whenever we send a text message on WhatsApp or Instagram or any other social media. For personal laptops or computers, such as, and even in Gmail, we see what happens is whenever you write something, it gives you a suggestion to complete the sentence.
Network issue is coming. Your voice is not coming clearly.
Is it clear now?
Looks better. Yeah, Ashok, please carry on.
Yes, sir. Is it clear now?
Yes, yeah.
Yes, so as I was saying, that Gmail gives us the auto recommendation feature. Like, for example, whenever you are writing something, for example, thanks, and it gives you the recommendation of and regards. So how does that happen? That happens with the help of natural language processing and AI tools and machine learning. Now, the second thing is we have chatbots. So suppose you are the owner of a company and you have a website, a very well maintained website. Now, what happens is you have the website, but you don't have people to maintain that website. So what happens? You assign /train chatbots. Now, an essential chatbot, a very well-trained chatbot, is capable of answering the frequently asked questions. And in advanced stages, those chatbots are also capable of redirecting calls to a particular person and track them. Now, in the Q&A section, for example, if a website has a Q&A section, what can happen is when people ask their questions, a normal human, instead of a chatbot, would feel annoyed to answer those similar questions. That does not happen in the case of chatbots. Now, the third, we have digital assistances. Now, digital assistants, for example, the voice recognition technologies or assistants such as Siri, Alexa, Cortana, and whatever the new things are. I'm not really aware of that. For example, Google Assistant, they all use natural language processing. So they could respond to most of the humane queries. For example, demand of mood music, or searching the best restaurant in the city, or just a particular movie to watch, and things like that. So basically, these three are just the tip of the iceberg when we have so many fallen, broken ice cubes on the surface of the water. And some of those examples would be maps and navigation, how Google provides us the live traffic situation, comparing various data and weather analysis. And then we have the face detection feature in iPhones and Android systems. And even I think that was possible sometime. No, I don't think so. So yeah, face detection feature in iOS and Android phones. And what happens is it scans your biometrics. Now, what is biometrics? Biometrics is the facial features of human, the length, the width, the height, the breadth. So that's how, when you look into your camera, it scans the biometrics, matches the sample that you have provided the phone, and unlocks the phone for you. Then we have the Google search recommendations. Now, Google is very precise in giving you results that is suitable according to you. How does that happen? If you search the same keyword in a search engine like Yahoo or Bing, the search results might not be that accurate. And it happens because of cookies. Google tracks you everywhere across the internet. What kind of sites do you visit? What kind of music do you listen to? What kind of movies are you watching? And whenever you search something related to that, it gives you the very precise outcome. Like, there is also a very popular Netflix series called Black Mirror, and director and writer Charlie Brooker in an episode mentions that a woman, when she experienced a tragic loss of the death of her boyfriend who died in a car crash, what happened was she was going through a grief period. And after that, she started getting recommendations of books in her emails about how to deal with grief, how to move on with life, how to carry on, and things like that. So I think that is a great enough example to understand, and that's a sad reality we live in. Number 7 is social media. Now, for a fun activity, I would recommend you to just exchange the social media account, your social media account, with a trusted friend of yours. And what you would realize is that the contrasting differences between your taste, your likes, your disinterest, the people you follow, and your friend. So, that happens, as I told you, because of machine learning and deep AI and the cookies the tech giants like Google and Facebook store. In social media, there's also a thing called cyberbullying, which is a positive aspect, as the tech giants like Google and Facebook have somewhat sorted out, because they cannot filter out hate speech and profane words like that. But can they really filter out snide or very subtle sarcastic remarks? That is a thing to ponder over. And the last is e-payments and security. Now, as we know that ever since AI and technology came, the payments have been more secure, and it is much faster and quicker. We don't have to rush to the banks every time we need to make a payment or things like that. Even scams that happen is somewhat reduced, or you can even track the scammers up to an extent with the help of modern technology that we have available right now. So that is for now. I would like to transfer the enlightenment torch to my colleague, who will further add on the subject. Thank you.
Unmute, please.
Payal, it's my
Unmute,
turn.
please.
Yeah. Payal, I think it's my turn to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So should I start?
Yes, please, Alpana. Please carry on.
Yes.
Sorry.
So as it is pointed out by Garima, that artificial intelligence has two components. One is machine learning and the other is natural language processing, or NLP. So I'm going to discuss more about the natural language processing and its use in the world of translation. Natural language processing is a situation where a computer tries to understand a human language. It interprets the human language and it takes decisions on the human language. Can we say that NLP is an interaction in between computers and human beings? But here the computers are programmed in such a manner so that they can process the natural languages like English or Spanish or Russian or any Indian language. The computer can understand the language and can take actions. Now the actions can be conversion of speech to text, or the action can be counting of the words or correcting the grammatical mistakes. One very good example of NLP is the spam detection. That is, as soon as a mail is received by the computer, it notices the subject line and immediately it decides the mode of action. That is, the mail is a junk and it has to be detected as a junk mail. So nowadays, NLP is advanced to such an extent that it not only translates the text, but it can analyze the sentiments of the human being who are speaking or who are writing a particular mail. And the NLP now can identify the voice of the human beings or speech recognition patterns. Now, how does a natural language processing, artificial intelligence kind of thing works? It first categorizes the content. Based on the content language or the document, it makes a summary. It searches from its own database and the indexes. It can create the alerts also, and it detects the duplication or redundancy. It finds out the topic and applies advanced analytical techniques for the optimization purposes. It extracts or summarizes the content. It identifies the mood or the feelings or the thoughts of the person. And then it goes for transformation of speech to text or text to speech conversion. One such application is the text analysis done by the natural language processing. That is, it counts the words and it detects the grammatical mistakes in the text. With this, I would like to hand over to my colleague for the next.
Yes, thank you, Alpana. So we learned a lot about AI today. We learned, first of all, there was the introduction, and then we learned what are the programming languages that constitute AI, like Python, like Java, like C++, and there are various other types of AI, like machine learning, and how from weak AI to super intelligent AI are seen from our day-to-day lives to science fiction movies. Then I talked a little bit about the uses of AI, how it surrounds us in our daily life, like with the helps of translators and autocorrect features. And one thing that Alpana ma'am also pointed out was the spam filter, which I forgot to mention. So that was also a really important aspect. And then how AI helps in translation. So we can come to the conclusion is that language is obviously a very fundamental aspect of the human communication, because it shapes our decisions and drives our behavior according to the ideologies that we listen and possibly react to. Likewise, acquiring and mastering a language in itself is a great deal and a great task in itself. And the inevitable rise of artificial intelligence obviously poses a great threat to the human jobs, and it poses certainly challenges in the translation industry, where a very new situation could arise. But I would say, just put yourself in a situation where you have learned French for almost 5 years, and then because of your company or because of your business deals, you get stuck in China for some reason, and the French is of no use in China. So what do? You take help of machine translation tools like Google Translation, like iTranslation, like Microsoft Translation. There's also something called Babylon Translation. These are all machine translation tools. But what it can essentially help you to do is to communicate your ideas and exchange information to possibly survive in that environment where you know nothing about that language. This can also happen in any non-English speaking country where they just don't speak English for once. Now, that is not to say that our focus should divert from acquiring a language as linguists. There's a very big difference between acquiring a language and learning a language. Anybody can learn a language. To acquire is to learn the various innuendos, the various nuances, the various literary aspects of a language associated with it. Because what can happen is a machine translation. In fact, I can give you the example. In the very recent text in my French class that I studied, there was a poem named Dame Pitié, and there was a word called amour, that is love. Now, in that particular word, what the poet does is he makes the A in amour capital. Why does he do that? Because he wants to personify the word. Now, to any untrained human eye, it would mean a simple grammatical mistake, for example. But to the literary people, that would mean something significant, doesn't it? So that is what acquiring a language can mean. And there are always the presence of regional dialects, the cultural references and internal humor within a culture that should always be kept in mind before making any translation, so it does not offend the values and sentiments of the people. Now, imagine what a disaster would it be if you translate something like that and send it to your client. To summarize, we'll just have to see how proficient these machine touches become in the future across languages and culture. Advancements are always welcome and they are to be celebrated, but they cannot replace learning and hard work and the human aspects and touch related to a language. Thank you. I would love to pass the enlightenment torch to Mr. Ravi, sir. Thank you.
Please unmute.
So now we have had, a good discussion on AI, natural language processing, deep learning, and whatnot. And I will give you a very practical aspect of the human relations that exist in society. If I will take a little brief to give you 3 concepts which are very important at this point of time to understand how machine is important for us. There are 2 sociologists. One is Nicholas Luhmann from Germany, and another one is Pierre Bourdieu from Algeria and France. Pierre Bourdieu talks about comprehensive theory of society. In that, he talks about variety of power relations that exist in our system, including power relations between 2 brothers, mother and father, father and daughter, father and son, and office. Everywhere we move around, we are talking in terms of power relations. And he describes, there are a variety of capitals. It's not only money that matters, it is also the intellectual capital, the economic capital, the social capital, and cultural capital. Intellectual capital is something that we talk about, it's knowledge. Cultural capital, is linked with intellectual capital because you end up getting lots of, titles, PhD or masters or, Nobel Prize, etc., etc. These are all capitals. If a person has at least one of these 4 categories stronger, he or she plays better role in society and power relations. There is another concept by Luhmann. Earlier one was Pierre Bourdieu, and the Luhmann is talking about a concept called I will say the sociology of society that we call system theory. What is the system theory? There are a variety of systems at play in our society, and those systems are a sort of autopoietic in sense. अमीबा जो होता है खुद अपने आप को बनाते जाता है, मल्टीप्लाई करता है. Similarly, society may be whatever is being created, it is created from within itself. The relationship that we build, the power relation that we just talked about, anything that happens, and there are various systems that play, role and compete with each other. For example, there is information system, there is political system, there is social system, there is economic system, there is media, mass media. It's again a system. And there is another system, and that is what is called machine system, right? So Luhmann has not talked much about machine systems, but all these systems play role. वैसे ही जैसे एक ह्यूमन बीइंग के बॉडी में बहुत सारे सिस्टम्स प्ले करते हैं रोल, एंड दे क्रिएट a body of uniqueness and human body functions. Similarly, all these functions are interrelated. There is no crisscross, cutting that, you can say, this particular point is not, you cannot cut it. So this is what is called, there is impermeable relationship. I will say there is a relationship which is not bonded by certain division, but these play a role with each other and interact with each other, and machine play an important role in all these systems. How this machine comes into picture is described by another, philosopher, and his name is Bruno Latour. He has given a theory called actor network theory. In that, he explains how, apart from all these systems that works, machine is very important now for any system to play, role in our society, in our day-to-day life. So using that actor network theory, humans are actors, but there are lots of networks that are not operational at all. They are dormant, but they come into action when their need arises. For example, if you are given one task, you start your work from one point, and then you move to another point, and there you find another system which was dormant, and you activate the system, and then it starts working for you. And once things get over, these system close, and everything looks normal. And again, when you have new assignment, you start another system, and it goes on. So in that system, this machine that we are talking about has now gained prime importance. Earlier, humans were certainly important, but they will remain important actors. But now machines are playing equal role, and many times much better role, or much important or key role, at various points. So my friend, friendship for linguists and language professionals with these machines are very important. And when we are talking about machines, these are all, all these bade machine karkhane nahi. Now this machine is also, artificial intelligence, computerized codes. They are all machines that are, chips that will be inserted in our brain in due course of time. And from being unilingual or bilingual or trilingual, we become multilingual by just inserting, and improving our memory. That day is not very far when this thing will start happening. Some scientists have already started experiments, in this area. And keeping that, all these stories into picture, now let's invite our guest speaker, Mr. Deep Saxena, who is an engineer with his master's from Indian Institute of Foreign Trade in MBA, and then with his specialization in natural language processing and AI from USA, a very well-known University of Texas. And he has, a big experience of more than 25 years as an engineer, especially automation, production, and whatnot, traveled around more than 20 countries across the globe. And he has been a very, very, ardent learner for languages also. He has learned Spanish from me when he was my student at Indian Institute of Foreign Trade. So please welcome Deep Saxena.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the introduction. I have been in the industry for last 25 years, and basically I am in the field of utilities and energy sector. And at that time in 94, 95, when we were in the electrical sector, we were doing SCADA, automation, and distribution control systems basically. And it was very difficult to teach the customer also and tell them what is RTU, remote terminal units, and what is SCADA. All these terms, even we have to make seminars and webinars, not webinars, but seminars in some hotels, give them lunch and prepare the customer with these terms and all that is stuff. But we have come a long way after that. And now artificial intelligence, which is a very old subject from 1958, if you see, this term is floated. But recently, after 2008 and 2002, when data science spread its wings and data scientists started working on this artificial intelligence has become very important, and it has entered into every walk of life and every industry and every work that we are doing, and the activities, day-to-day activities that is we are involved basically. Before starting on NLP, I would first like to emphasize on a little bit background on what is artificial intelligence and what is a different mode of learning, as other speakers have also explained about deep learning, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. There is a slight difference in all these categories, and that makes a huge difference while you make programming or you do programming on that and prepare some tool or your agent to work on the artificial intelligence basically. If you see in any domain, I mean to say, such like my domain is electrical field, some other person is a linguistic, he is dealing in languages, different languages. Similarly, it may be in oil and other sectors. So that is basically domain knowledge, domain expertise, basically. So in each domain, if you see, there is a lot of data generated on day-to-day basis. And this data is generated through the different sensors that we are applied in the system, or at the different analysis that goes on in the computer itself. So when we use this data and try to extract some patterns from that so that we can predict the future happening utilizing that pattern, that becomes an artificial intelligence. Means we learn means computer learns from the patterns in the database, and from that pattern learning, it can predict in future, and it can give basically emulation and simulation of future conditions. Basically, that is artificial intelligence. That is just like thinking like human. Basically, that is thinking like human. In human brain, if you see, there are a lot of neurons are there. Those neurons are interconnected. Basically, they preserve the information, they pass on the information, and that is through the chemical process. That is through chemical process. But in computers, if you see, that is through the electrons, basically, that is getting transferred. So now if you we come on the topic, so there is a data, there is a domain expertise, there is computer, and there is statistics that is involved. That different combination of these makes the decision support system, artificial intelligence, and basically big data. So if we see, there are three types of learning that already other people have talked. So first is the artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, any branch is in any field, in any domain, which is done by the machine or by the computer without any human intervention. That is based on the pattern, and that is based on the previous learning by the computer or the machine. The second thing is deep learning. Deep learning is like if you are doing something manually. So deep learning is like teaching the machine by using the data so that it can program itself to do a particular function repeatedly and accurately and precisely in future. Basically, that is deep learning. Now the third thing, sorry, that is a machine learning, sorry. And now the third thing is deep learning. Deep learning is basically thinking like human beings. So this is based on the artificial neural network, that is ANN we call. So we program these ANN based on our database. We give the pattern, we give the database to ANN input. There are weights and there are different you say layers in the artificial neural networks, and it gives a given output for a given input. So that is basically deep learning. Now, there are two, what is the aim of artificial intelligence? The aim of artificial intelligence is so that computer or any machine can interact with human just like human, basically. So how we are communicating? We are looking something and we are reacting, or we are speaking. We are making gestures, or we are speaking basically in our language. So there are two parts in this artificial intelligence. One is the computer vision, the other is a natural language processing. So we are in this webinar, we are basically interested in natural language processing. There is another thing is computer vision, which is also used in traffics, in recognition of theft cases and all these things. So their computer vision comes into play, but that is not an area of interest today. So we come on the natural language processing. So there are almost 6,500 languages that is spoken worldwide. So these are so many languages that no single person can master on that, and even master on some languages, but he cannot translate the actual meaning or the sentiment that is expressed by the person who is speaking in a particular language. So in artificial intelligence, we have made certain methods or semantics through which we can analyze a particular language, and we can utilize that. Once we analyze that language, once we analyze sentence spoken in that language, then we can utilize it to translate into some other language, basically. Just a minute. So there are different semantics or different methods which is applied in analysis of language, and these are tokenism. Means every sentence we give a token to that word, every word that is used in that sentence. So tokenization is one of the things that is used in analysis of the language. Second thing, this stemming. Stemming is just like getting into the root of the word. Root of the word, like as we say goes, we say going, we say some other word like that. So it will reach into the basic word of that, root word of that, that is go. So that is stemming, basically. Another fundamental in this is lemmatization. Lemmatization involves it means semanticization, and lemmatization is very close. But in lemmatization, what we do, that in what context a particular word is used. Means go, okay, ja raha hai. Gone means chala gaya, like that. So in what context the word is used, that is also preserved in this lemmatization, basically. Now the second thing, another fundamental comes is a POS, part of speech. So part of speech means there are a number of sentences which is spoken by somebody. So we will break that sentence into small parts, and we analyze those small parts for part of speech. And the area of interest, just like you say Google's CEO. So that is a point of interest, and that is search into the sentences or the database that computer is having, or the data bank is having. So it will analyze those things. Point of part of speech. Sorry. The second thing is entity identification. Entity identification you can give just like a company name, just like a person's name. So it will search in the language, it will search into the literature that has been given by a person and look into that, basically. So these are different methods, different semantics that has been developed to analyze a particular language. Now I will go to a basic circuit also that is used in natural language processing, that is called LSTM, long short-term memory. So this is used for analyzing the words and the sentence in a whole whole which is spoken by some person. And this LSTM individual blocks are based on recurring neural network. Recurring neural network is just like I think people must be aware about neural network and artificial neural network. So these are individual units, but in analyzing the language, basically, we use recurring neural networks. So that works as the individual units, and we give input of every word that is given in the sentence, and that analyzes and gives the output and retains the input memory also. So that is why it is called means long short-term memory. So that is called LSTM basically. Now we come, so this is a basic thing that I just wanted to make it clear how we are doing natural language processing. Now to support this natural language processing, there are different libraries that different companies or different organizations have made, and different organization, different companies have made different libraries basically. And as much as words will be there in the library, say 50,000, 1 lakh, or even more than that, the much better translation will be there, the much better interpretation of language will be there by that method. So there are different libraries that has been made by different companies, and some of the libraries I will like to mention here is the Scarcity. It's just hold on, I'm not there. Yeah. So one of the library is Scarcity for production. This library is used for production and object-oriented programming in artificial. Yeah. So this is the first library that I explained. The another one is Stanford University. Is if you know, Stanford University is one of the university which has done a lot of work in artificial intelligence, both in computer vision as well as NLP. So they have also made core NLP as a library, which is used in the software toolkit to convert the convert and analysis of the NLP basically. Another library is NLTK. So this NLTK is with the Python, and this library is used when we are writing a program, writing a our agent in Python library. So Python language. So we use NLTK also. And for Indian languages, they have also developed INLTK, which I will reference later on. The other one is a GenSim. So this is the largest when there is video streaming is there, some speech is there, and you want to extract some information out of that, or you want to analyze that. So in that case, this library is used when large scale data streaming is there. The other fifth one is a NLPI. This is another Python library. The other one is a pattern, that is also Python library. The other one is seventh one is a polyglot, which is multilingual. Different languages, words are involved in this library. So that is used when you are using the translation. Like so, this way, if you see, there are different libraries which has been developed by different organizations, which helps in natural language processing. And after that, if you see the next slide, I have mentioned this. This is regarding LSTM that I have already explained. This is in more detail, and I think at this stage it will not be good, but you can have this one. So here I mentioned NLP and Indian languages, where there are some of the library that has been made specifically for Indian languages, just like INLTK. This is with the Python, and it utilizes different aspects or different semantics like tokenization, word embedding, text completion, and similarity of sentence, means pattern recognition, like that. And then INTIC NLP library is another one where you use normalization, transliteration, phonetic analysis, and syllabification, basically. And the third one that I came across is a Stanford NLP, which is used for Indian languages. So these are some of the libraries that has been developed by industry and the organization, which can be used for natural language processing. So this is all that I was having right now. But next time, if it happens, then I will like to explain more in detail, means how we are doing the natural language processing more in detail for LSTM and other techniques that we follow for that. Yeah, thank you, sir. You can proceed.
Okay, great. Thank you, Deepji. Aapne abhi whatever explained, it's very enlightening to understand the basics of natural language processing and how the chunking and semantic works. It has more to do with there is a branch called linguistics in which we understand the sentence pattern, sentence structure. We also learn to do tagging. We also learn to do chunking, and all these things in a way helps in preparation of a better machine learning. When the more information you give to machine, the better it is. So therefore, when the data collection is done, people plan in advance so that the accurate data and detailed data reaches the system, and then system starts learning from it, and slowly it becomes more smarter, because the programming is done in such a way that they have to become smarter if the more data is given to them. For example, I am involved in a project with Ministry of Information Technology for developing a machine tool, for legal domain. So IIT Mumbai, as well as IIT Kanpur and IIT Delhi and IIT Patna and Triple IIT Hyderabad. These are CDAC Noida and CDAC Pune. These are all part of this consortium, including Ravi Kumar as it's one of the consortium members as advisor.
That's good. Yep.
So there we have learned, the challenge comes for Indian languages is we lack corpora. We don't have data, bilingual data collected at a one point and authentic data. If we do not have authentic bilingual data, it becomes very difficult for machine to develop, and learning does not take place. There are certain open sources that has been developed by IIT Mumbai as well IIT Kanpur. You can, if somebody wants those corpora for research purposes, can request from these institutions, and it will be provided to them at free of the cost. But the fact is, the developers as well as these researchers are finding it very difficult to prepare. For example, even 1 lakh sentence pattern is not enough.
Yes, very memory consuming for computer.
It needs at least right. It needs at least 10 lakhs, or maybe more, and continuous feeding of data. And luckily, Google in this regard has done quite well, and they get lots of data on a daily basis, rather in a fraction of seconds. Similarly, Microsoft has also developed its own, proprietary, software for translation. Similarly, IBM has also developed its own, luckily, I recall on this particular front, IIT, CDAC Pune, Dr. Hemant Darwari developed, a machine called Mantra, which is deployed in Parliament. They have also developed machines for translating other languages, including Chinese as well as Japanese, for intelligence purposes. The first of this kind was developed in in Canada when they started forecasting weather conditions, and there the machine use started working, in 1960s I'm talking about. And they have developed their own, system for giving machines to learn. That's called portage. And in this regard, if you go to the website of multilingual dictionary called Logran Dictionnaire at Canadian website, you will find millions of words available there online. That kind of massive online data collection is required. Then only something good can happen. Although in this regard, Wikipedia has done quite a considerable job. Similarly, Asia Online, in Asian region has been doing quite well. But from India side, there has been lacuna on the part of individuals, private owners, etc.
Participation of companies, basically.
Right. So that is a big hindrance. But I just hope that, slowly, India being leader in this area, they have been developing lots of software for all other parts of the world. But now the focus has started, on natural language processing, etc. So I just hope that they will be able to, do quite well in this area also. So now, before I thank you again, Deepji, for your insight, and I would like to invite all our interns who are interested in asking questions. Either they can ask questions on YouTube channel where they are currently, or if they wish, they can join the boardroom. I have shared the link also in our WhatsApp group. If anybody interested in asking any questions, the floor is open. You can please talk to get in touch with our coordinator, Payal, and then she will one by one, she can allow you to ask questions. So the floor is open now. Anyone, if somebody who was our presenter can also ask questions till we have more people to join for question and answer session. Okay, floor is open now. No one?
Yeah, there should be enough queries in their mind because they are young minds. They should come forward and ask basically. Whatever is our capacity, we will try to answer that and satisfy them. But
Yes,
let them come forward.
Alpana has one question. Alpana, please come forward.
Yes, sir, I would like to know if I use an artificial intelligence tool for natural language processing, artificial intelligence tool for translation purpose, how much translation work I have to do, and how much work will be done by that tool?
You see, in every translation tool, it is always human checking we are doing after translation. And means just like if you see in Google, in IBM, in some other companies, they have already developed such tools. And whenever this translation comes from one language to other language, it is always confirmed by human, some expert of that translation language, because machine can convert the language, but sometimes you see the accuracy is 20 to 80%. Initially, the accuracy was 20%. Now 70 to 80% accuracy is coming. But the biggest challenge that comes for the machine is sentiment conversion, basically. In what context that particular word is used, because the same word can be used in different contexts. So sentiment conversion is the biggest challenge. And for that, we do manual checking after translation, basically.
Yeah, in this regard, I just wanted to add one more thing.
Yes, sir.
That is, when we are talking about machine, doing artificial intelligence, doing translation. There is a concept now called post-editing that has come into picture. And post-editing is generally done by, I mean, bilingual is there, but many times it is done not by bilingual, but by a unilingual. But a person has to be very, very smart, experienced, and expert in that particular domain in which that particular translation is taking place. So what they do, they pass the text through machine and then give it back to you, and you do your common sense, apply your brain, and you do the editing, bring in certain sentiments also there, and then it is on. It saves time, and you don't need to be a bilingual or multilingual. So this is a trick, of being faster, delivery in content management. I mean, many times it works, many times it becomes a Picasso. So you have to be careful. I mean, the project managers and the owners of these projects have to be, little observant about it. So
it's like 50 to 70% work has been done by machine. Remaining 50 to 30% work is done by human being, basically.
Yes, sir.
Right. So that way.
And one
Any
more
other
question
you have?
So, excuse me. I mean, I have one more question. Whether these tools are, what are their costs? What is the cost of these tools? Minimum cost of the tool will be? Something like that.
These tools are not as such off the counter available that way. They are libraries, they are tools that you can develop on your own if you are a developer. But if you see these tools, these libraries are available. You can make your agents, basically, that what is called. So through the agent, you can make just like bots and all these things. So means basic infrastructure, basic technical things are available. You can make your own tool, because these tools are copyrights of these companies.
Yes.
Means IBM, if you say Google, if you say Microsoft. So these are copyrights of these companies. But if you want to develop some new tool, there are technical feasibility is there. You can do that, basically. Yes. But it is not available just like off the counter, basically.
Yeah, but I have tried certain tools, and there is a concept called API. What you do, there are these tools are available, and there are some that allows you to have access and customize your code and develop linkages with those tools and extract information from there. Many of them are free, and some of them are at a very low cost, and some of them are on volume basis. For example, Amazon has some options. Similarly, Google also gives certain options, including automated translation, including automated transcription, including voiceover of certain text. All these things are you have to do some experiments. Those people who have interest in this area, they do this activity, and through API, with little effort of code, one is able to do it. I tried once with a cat tool called Trados. Trados gives you option to develop your memory first, and then automate the translation through Google for those parts which are not available. So that way, what happens if you have memory for 50% and you use the memory of 50%, and for the rest you do Google translation and do your editing. So that way, if sometime, for example, if your time is, let's say, for completion is 50 minutes, you can complete that in 20 minutes or maybe 15 minutes, by using memory as well as machine translation.
Yeah, you have to be smart enough for doing it.
Right. So, I mean, you have to learn, non-linguistic aspects, including certain rules, regulations to be followed. Yes. Otherwise, you will get lost into those, codes, especially tagging and non-tagging, thing, including comma, space, etc.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions we have? Okay, Garima has some question. Yes, Garima, please.
Yes, sir. Sir, I wanted to ask if we talk about the domain of translation, like we have artificial super intelligence that can surpass the human abilities. So do you think that by the time the technology gets so much developed that even the role of translators gets cancelled in the domain of translation? So what are your ideas on this?
आप कुछ बोलना चाहेंगे दीप?
नहीं sir, you can better take it up because it is an area under development and that super intelligence has not entered into the translation field right that way.
Right, Garima, see, I tell you, it's just like, fear factor. When Rajiv Gandhi introduced, computers in 1985, there was a fear, कि अब तो सारे जितने भी ऑफिस में लोग हैं वो रिप्लेस हो जाएंगे, कंप्यूटर आ गया, अब उसकी जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी, टाइपिस्ट लोग चले जाएंगे. It doesn't happen that way. The role, you transform into your roles. For example, अभी drivers नहीं है, will be replaced by driverless people, machines. But there will be role of drivers sitting in a computer room and monitoring the traffic, because they know better the routes. They know they will. I mean, if they don't know, somebody else will come, but there will be someone monitoring all these activities. And similarly. Typists जो थे पहले जो type करते थे typewriter पे, now they do it on computer. The efficiency increases. All these tools are being developed not to replace humans, rather to increase your efficiency and develop more faster solutions. Because people are desperate to get translation of something which is happening currently, let's say in Afghanistan, and there is some leader coming up in Pashto and talking in Pashto, and suddenly a rebel comes into picture. And he is talking only in Pashto. Who will, transfer for this information from that point to another corner of the world? Everybody wants, instant information. There, the role of translators, interpreters, as well as, this neural network and natural language processing comes. If they have developed certain tools in Pashto to English, it will be done into English, and from English, it will get into, variety of other systems. I mean, we have to locate, where we are, and the role of linguists, can be seen everywhere, including on a traffic light, or including during classroom, or during war, or during a crisis like Afghanistan, or people going to school, college, anywhere, including in operation theater. I have done, one interpreting for a very known heart surgeon called Dr. Trehan at his hospital when he was at Escorts Hospital. He was doing live, heart surgery and training 5 doctors from Spain. And you have to explain what is going on. Similarly, I have done interpreting for, training people who didn't know robotics at all. So a trainer for robotics was training 5 people, technical people, engineers, to do coordinates, of the robotics and how to operate a robot and give commands and do seamless welding, etc. I had to learn all these things while doing the job. So the role of, and then learn the process of quality control and whatnot, Six Sigma and, total quality control. I mean, I'm a linguist, but I have learned all these things, doing these things, in practice. So this role of a language person can be varied, and it is very challenging and learning experience. It's very fulfilling experience. So that is what it is. Yeah, Ashok, you have something.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir, my question is actually related to the last statement you made. You said something that you had interest about learning the other things, being a linguist too. So what are the skills that a translator should be looking to acquire if he wants to better acquaint himself with technology such as natural language processing and should he aim for learning a programming language or something like that?
Ashok, Deep, आप कुछ बोलना चाहेंगे इस पे? He's talking about some programming and all.
Basically, if you want to be a translator or linguistic, first you have to have command on the language itself, because artificial intelligence and machine learning, all these tools will be available to you, which you can utilize. These tools are there to help you out, basically. But you should have a command over the language on which you are working. This will be speeding up your work, as Ravi sir has said. Means you can do your job in 50% time, 30% time. So that's all. But basically, you should have command over the language where you want to do the translation. That is the basic requirement.
Yeah, and one thing that I might it might interest you is that being a language professional, if you want to really do well in career, you have to open your neural networks, and receive as much good information as possible and filter out bad information, because if you are a disturbed mind, you will not be able to be a creative one and learn to take challenges. I mean, it's my experience. For example, I'm a linguist, but earlier I was studying calculus, physics, chemistry, bio in my 10+2. Then I learned political science. Then I learned Spanish. Then I learned doing, business thing. Then I learned administration, international relations. And then from there, I moved to programming like HTML, PHP, JavaScript. I do my own web developments, Similarly, I learned to develop apps. I learned to do video editing. I learned to do transcription. I learned to do quality management. I learned to do law. I am a lawyer also. I mean, did interpreting for Prime Minister, President, Vice President, all variety of people, So idea is, if we are ready to face challenge and ready to adapt, number two, we can do anything. Now I am more interested. I mean, I'm again interested in artificial intelligence, from law to artificial intelligence, because it is the future currently, especially for language. I mean, we have to interlink things, and I will give you example of one of our friends who is Vice Chancellor currently at Amity University in Ranchi, Dr. Raman Jha. He's a physicist, a well-known scientist. Similarly, we have another YR Patil University Vice Chancellor, Prabhat Ranjanji, who is a Vice Chancellor there, who is also a physicist, but he is a poet, he is a writer, he is expert in computer science. He did logic for Chandrayaan. He was the first nuclear fusion scientist who did his PhD from University of Berkeley, etc., etc. I mean, if you try to locate people, you will find such people doing wonders. From one, somebody being a physicist is doing tabla, and playing music. This is what is creativity. And from physics you move to metaphysics, and from metaphysics you move to religion, culture, and from there you enter into society, sociology, anthropology, languages. They are all interlinked. In these all divisions have been done by humans, but in reality, whatever human existence is one. So I mean, this is what I believe is the thing to be learned. So thank you, Ashok, and let's move to last question from Riya Kaneja. Riya, please.
Sir, my question is, like many people are like searching for the translation and interpretation jobs these days, but are not able to get easily. Like, I want to ask one question, that if like these tools are like recently, these are in great demand and are being used by many people. So like, how can we say that there will be many jobs in translation and interpretation in future? if these will be replaced by the machines?
No, it's not like that. Because if you see these tools are coming, if you are expert of these tools, you can be incorporated in any of the company to use these tools. So it's a new opportunity. It is just depend how you take it.
चलिए मैं एक सिंपल टर्म्स में आपको बताता हूँ रिया इसमें कि आज से 10 साल पहले जब गूगल नहीं था एंड सोशल मीडिया नहीं था, तब जो कंटेंट कंजम्पशन होता था ग्लोबली, उस समय कंटेंट का डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन होने में बहुत टाइम लगता था. फ्रॉम वन कॉर्नर टू अनदर, जनरली इट यूज्ड टू टेक एट टाइम्स 1 वीक. सबसे पहले तो महीनों लग जाते थे जब रॉयटर्स अपना न्यूज एजेंसी स्टार्ट किया था तब. उसके बाद 10 दिन, उसके बाद 15 दिन, उसके बाद 5 दिन, उसके बाद 2 दिन, उसके बाद 1 दिन. फिर इंटरनेट जब इंडिया में इंट्रोड्यूस हुआ 1994 में, तो वो इंस्टेंट आना शुरू हुआ इंफॉर्मेशन. फास्ट इंटरनेट आने लगा, 4G 5G एंड व्हाट नॉट. तो dissemination of information now takes very fast. So the kind of content is being produced globally in international languages as well as national languages or regional languages or local languages is too high. इतना ज्यादा है कि उसको आप मेजर नहीं कर सकते. मतलब it's like unmeasurable. And उस unmeasurable में आप अगर थोड़ा सा कुछ कमा लीजिएगा, तो it is nothing. It's a peanut. You cannot control that opportunity. So thinking कि opportunity नहीं है, I mean, I believe is just a figment of imagination and it's a mental barrier. आप एक पत्थर तो मार के देखिए आसमान में, आपके सामने बहुत सारे अपॉर्चुनिटीज आएंगी.
हर फेंका हुआ पत्थर अपने आप में निशाना होता है, लेकिन उसका पता नहीं होता, क्योंकि दोबारा आप उसको वहीं पे नहीं फेंक सकते.
You understand, Riya?
Yes, sir.
And plus, the most important is, if you really want to become a good translator, you should be theoretically very sound, apart from being linguistically sound. Theory of translation, its usage under supervision, कोई mentor ढूंढिए, do some good courses, they will empower you a lot. Confidence build up होता है उससे. सिर्फ प्रैक्टिकल ज्ञान लेने से, जैसे कंपाउंडर लोग cannot become a good doctor. So to become a good doctor, you need to have a study, and for that you need to do some research. कुछ मेहनत करना पड़ता है. बट हम 2 लैंग्वेज जानते हैं, उसका बोलने लगते हैं कि हम ट्रांसलेटर हो गए. ऐसा नहीं होता. आपको डिटेल में घुसना पड़ेगा, तभी जाके कुछ बनेगा. ओके.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
चलिए,
Sir.
गुड लक टू एवरीबॉडी. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद दीप जी एंड ऑल माय फ्रेंड्स एंड स्पीकर्स. पायल and Nikita, do you have anything to say? Any comments you want to make before we close? It seems they are not there, so
No, sir, no comments to make.
Yes,
no
sir.
comments.
Thank you
Now
for the
let me take some
interactive.
questions. If we have any questions on any questions from our interns on YouTube channel. If there is nothing, we
No,
close.
there's no question on the YouTube channel.
Okay, great. So, my friends, thank you very much for your time, and it was a very good experience, and we learned a lot from Deep Ji as well as from all our presenters. I wish you all a very, very good evening, and thank you, and see you again. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, and good night, everybody.